Hey everybody, this is Glenda, your integrative nurse coach, and today is November 11th, so I did want to take a moment to say thank you to our veterans. We truly appreciate your commitment, your sacrifices, and all that you have done for us. And so again, kudos to our veterans. I wanted to take a moment to ask how many of you are currently living with a chronic condition, or are you taking care of someone with a chronic condition? And I'm speaking of like your hypertension, diabetes, vascular disease, obesity. Now, I recently wrote a couple posts on Instagram, just some brief little statements, and it was titled Chronic Illness, It Takes a Village. And I believe, just like in the olden days, you always heard that saying about taking care of, it takes a village to raise a kid, to raise a child. It also takes a village to help individuals managing chronic illnesses. For some, the receiving that diagnosis can be overwhelming. Sometimes there are some issues around health literacy. There's so much to understand nowadays with our health conditions, as well as navigating the healthcare arena and obtaining all of the resources that we need. So I recently, this summer, my mother was diagnosed with diabetes, which kind of inspired me to put the post out there just to help other families who may be experiencing the same type of issue. So she was diagnosed with diabetes, and I was talking to her on a regular basis, asking questions around blood sugars, what her readings were, what she was eating, and making sure she had her night snacks and all of those things. And, we found early on that she was running into some problems with her blood sugar being low. She talked about, being really dizzy and to the point where feeling like she was going to pass out. And so there was a lot of work to be done. And now we live in different states, but I found that I was a little overwhelmed because I felt like I couldn't do all that I wanted to do for her because I wanted to show her things. And, I emailed some things. My mom's kind of old school. She doesn't do email, which is a case for some and not for others. But the point is that she needed some assistance with that, with someone right there with her. We talked about, if I'm not mistaken, her overall education that she was provided after the diagnosis was about an hour and a half, and that was within 2 visits. And so much more time is needed if we want to manage a condition like diabetes without having any complications. So what I would suggest to families, and I guess I'll move on a little bit with the story, is that I had to contact my other siblings and say, hey, can you guys help out? Someone make sure that she has her snacks. Someone make sure that she's, ask her about what she's eating. Ask her about what the blood sugars are running. And I think the first step is that I had to talk to them about somebody in the family also being educated on the condition. And so that's what I would recommend for families who may be experiencing the same type of thing. The other challenge is when you're working with adults, certainly parents, they sort of want to do what they want to do sometimes. So if you're educated on what the chronic illness is, you have the opportunity to let them know that you know what you're talking about. So what I would suggest is that someone or multiple family members, and this is a time where if they're neighbors, I know that neighborhoods have changed. Sometimes they're not as friendly and as courteous to each other as they used to be. Some folks live in neighborhoods and they don't even know who their neighbors are. So I understand that that neighborhoods have changed, but I'd suggest that as many people as possible that can be a part of the process be available to help out, just to make sure that we're managing, the chronic illness. The cost of chronic illnesses it just continues to skyrocket. And so it is in the patient's best benefit that your loved one, that family member, to try to manage this, to reduce all of those complications that are associated with the increase in cost for managing chronic illnesses. So that would be my first suggestion, is that someone in the family or someone that's helping out educate themselves, be it internet. It's a great resource, but you have to, you have to make sure that you're going to good resources, such as like the American Diabetics Association. That would be a good site. But then you also want to talk to someone. So it may be a matter of, calling the person's doctor. See, I didn't have a problem with calling my mother's doctor, because I was questioning the amount of medication and how often she was taking it. And so, so someone has to become educated. There's a lot of literature around there about chronic illnesses. The internet is a great source. Scheduling an appointment with an educator who is associated with the doctor's office is also a good way to do it. And then sometimes there are resources available, like some of the hospitals have educational classes. You may be able to find some resources like at your local YMCA, or look for some of your national organizations and check online, because they do have listed the contact numbers and addresses of some of your local resources. So that would be the first thing I'd suggest, is to make sure that somebody in the village is actually educated on the dynamics of the condition. And if 5 people want to be educated on it, that's great. That's great. The more the merrier. But someone, in addition to the person who has a diagnosis, should be educated, because typically, like with the new diagnosis, I know for my mother, she's pretty overwhelmed because there was a lot to learn. I think there's some, health literacy issues involved as well, understanding a lot of the phrases. And I'm not sure that she was provided the information in as much layman's terms as she could have been. But I'm only making that assumption based on what her responses were to me. And so, again, I would say just make sure that everyone around is educated on the condition, so that everybody can help out. And so even if it's a situation where you have loved ones who live out of town and they know about it, tell them to pick up the phone and call. I mean, like I said, I don't live in the same state as my mother, but I still call her just to kind of ask her how things are going. And when I did visit, I was able to gather some resources for her. And with the other family members, they made sure she had the snack bars for bedtime and things like that. So I'll kind of continue on a little bit on this topic. And again, I think it takes a village. It's the same concept as with the child. A lot of these chronic conditions are challenging to manage, especially if the support and the resources are not there. And then they're challenged to manage when the support and resources are there. So we're going to get through this. Thank you for your time, and I'll come back and we'll continue to talk about managing chronic illnesses as a village, to kind of alleviate a lot of the anxiety and worry that's associated with obtaining a new diagnosis. So thanks again, and everybody have a great evening. Thank you.